Next, Senator John Dolan, and you have 8 minutes.
And welcome the Minister. First of all, I'd just like to thank the Leader for ensuring that this new strategy was on the Clár this week, first time back, and regardless of what views we have on it, that's a very important thing, and I welcome it. And I also welcome the initiatives and the moves and the improvements that have been made over the last year or so by the Minister. Minister, I think you and the Government have mistakenly put your faith in this strategy. This strategy, to be very clear from my point of view, is the road to further doom, gloom and loss of any hope for people with disabilities, the 640,000+ of them. There are serious and fatal fault lines in the design and make-up of the strategy. I think these can be addressed, but let me set them out. Firstly, the strategy states on page 1 that the enactment of new or amended legislation is required prior to ratification. Minister, I'm not confident that you actually understand what ratification is about. Look, ratification is simply about a government having a programme of progressive realisation, a progressive improvement for the CRPD. If we're fully compliant, we don't need a UN convention. If we've nothing to do, we're there. So I think we need to just get on with it now and do the work, start doing the work. Secondly, on page 2 and 3, you've set out 13 initiatives that you say, and I quote, will in their cumulative effect be life-changing for very many people. 6 of these are processes. Almost half of them are processes. Examine the recommendations of the Make Work Pay working group with a view to introducing. Review of transport supports. We find development of proposals twice, and we define development of code of practice to support. These are simply planning and preparation tasks. They're not delivering for people. Showing people the menu when you don't have food to give them is quite frankly misleading. Thirdly, post-ratification is mentioned twice on page 11, with no commitment to a date for ratification, not even within the 2020 or 21 deadline. Is this a misprint or again an attempt to mislead and push off? Minister, I'm going to ask you, did you hear the following statement? As a government, we are renewing our commitment to ratifying the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities this year and to improving services available to people with disabilities. That was said by our newly elected Taoiseach in the Dáil just after he said, the Minister of State, Deputy Finian McGrath, remains Minister with responsibility for disabilities across several departments. Minister, do you not trust the Taoiseach, what he said in the Dáil? That was the 14th of June. This strategy was published on the 14th of July. Not a hint of that commitment in the strategy, high up or low down. Fourthly, I contend that there is an issue of trust and confidence between you and some of your staff, of the staff who advise you. You told RTE Radio 1 earlier this year in an interview with Anya Lawler that you were misled in relation to the date for ratification. You said, when I came into government, I was clearly misled in relation to that we could have it done in a shorter time frame. Then she asked, misled by whom? By the current people within the system, said to me it would be done by Christmas. That was your reply. Now, Minister, as of now, you've refused to put the Taoiseach's commitment into this, and furthermore, you have officials advising you, whom you have stated publicly that you don't trust. I'm now directly asking you, what have you done in relation to these officials who are known to you? Have you raised this matter with the Secretary-General? Have you raised it with the then Minister Francis Fitzgerald, the current Minister Charles Flanagan? And why does this strategy not have the commitment given to the Dáil by An Taoiseach front and centre in it? Let me move to good news. This strategy is in need of what I call fairly major rehabilitation, but this can be successfully done and it can be quickly done. The Disability in Ireland section on page 5 sets out a range of damning statistics outlining key challenges, and fair play for actually upfront putting them in: the poverty, unemployment, low education participation. Yet those 1,200 people, young people living in nursing homes, or the increase in the already high levels of social housing need don't figure. These are recent government figures. The strategy demonstrates little or no ambition to address these critical matters. Ambitious outcomes for people's ordinary lives are not in this plan. So what can be done? What's the solution? There's a couple of things straight up. Let's take this document back, amend it, insert the Taoiseach's commitment to ratify, and set out the extent to which services will be improved. Place the Taoiseach's department at the centre of ensuring that this whole-of-government strategy is ratified and fully implemented. Yes, there is a continuing role and an important role for the Department of Justice and Equality to continue necessary support. The other side, real practical outcomes for people, key outcomes to be delivered. Budget 18 is critical to this. It's the third year of this administration. The forgotten 1,200, already mentioned by Senator Devine, their liberty is very well denied, deprived. We don't need to go to any barristers to sort that one out. Take the funding that's going into them being in nursing homes and put it back in the community. They're already being funded to be basically in captivity. So ensure that not one more person goes into a nursing home, a young person. That's the first thing. In parallel, commit to returning the 1,200 young people over the next 3 or 4 years on a phased basis, in keeping with the convention. Housing. Commit on a phased yearly basis to provide social housing, and I will name 800 people now on the waiting list. Do you know that the 178 million, that amount of money that's been given back to people who pay their water charges, would actually fund that? That amount of money would fund that, give or take. Make the housing adaptation grant more available and more accessible. Poverty. A lot of talk about restoration of pay. Let's have, and it's been mentioned already, let's have the restoration of income to people on means-tested payments, the DA, to give them back the €1,047 that they've lost over the last 5 years. Surely to God, that has to be the first call on a government that has a heart. These people have lost, and they were on means-tested incomes. Employment, and in fairness, there is a strong commitment there to move from 3% in the public sector to 6%. I note that the conclusion date for that is out to 2024. That's
Senator, your time is up.
Long time away. Let me simply say in conclusion, Cathaoirleach, the priority in the budget needs to be and can be disability inclusion. Responsibility to address these issues impacting on people with disabilities rests first and foremost with An Taoiseach, with ministers, and in the context of this budget. This budget needs to be a game changer. I know so well, Minister, that you want this strategy to work. I know that in my heart and soul, and I want it to, and everybody wants it. I am sad to say that as it is, it will simply flounder. And I want to ask you one question. Tell us when you first saw the AG's advice, or when the AG's advice was first sought, as to how the process of ratification can be accelerated. Gur Mahagat, and thanks for your support, Cathaoirleach.